Spirituality and religion are of relevance when clinicians interact with people experiencing a wide variety of health and life concerns, as there is evidence that spirituality and religion are associated with positive health outcomes. With respect to addictions, spirituality and religion are widely considered by professionals and clients alike to be central in the recovery process. Including spirituality and religion within more traditional forms of therapy for addictions has been suggested to improve the effectiveness of such therapies. Some would claim that spiritual or religious concepts and practices have played a larger role in the treatment and management of addictions than in other areas of medicine and mental health. This video will focus on the place of spirituality and religion within the nature of addiction itself, and also in the recovery process. Tammy and Jeff, a married couple who each have struggled with addictions, as well as Dr. Kurt Clark, an addictions counselor, will be featured. Tammy began smoking marijuana at the age of 12. When she was 14, she was involved in a serious car accident, for which her recovery included over 20 surgeries. At age 30, she was diagnosed with arthritis and prescribed pain medication. Tammy became addicted to this medication, and before long her world started to crumble. Jeff grew up in a home with an alcoholic parent. He was also diagnosed with attention deficit disorder as a child. He started drinking in grade 5, which developed into an addiction to alcohol as a young adult. After a work-related injury, his drinking escalated. He also became addicted to the pain medication that had been prescribed to help him deal with the pain from his injury. Addiction has been described as a spiritual disease and also a spiritual vacuum. As an addiction worsens, there is a disconnectedness which occurs within all aspects of the person's being.
Well, addiction breaks off the connectedness to what we have with God, what we have with ourselves, and what we have with others. The relationship might be hanging on, but it becomes dysfunctional. And so it's all areas of a person's life, and not just relationships. You know, leisure time, people that enjoyed taking a walk in the woods, well, they don't do that because they're either, you know, trying to get the money to get high or getting high.
For me, with my addiction, I felt it was a spiritual battle because I just felt so empty and alone. I felt like my body was just a shell. And it came to the point where I prayed to God to just take me out of this world. I know I had my children, but I didn't feel like a very good mom. I didn't feel like a very good anything. So it sucked the life right out of me. It turned me into a person that I never was. And looking back on it now, sometimes I wonder how did I get through it. But I believe the Lord helped me through.
Physically, I was beaten, especially if I was going through withdrawals from opiates. It felt like I was beaten with a baseball bat. And emotionally, it's I got very suicidal at the end of it. It kind of just, emotionally I couldn't cry, I couldn't laugh, I had no feelings. And socially, at the end of it, I became a real social outcast. After going on a binge of drinking and using and trying to come off of it, I used to spend days in lying in bed. It affected me spiritually. It's, I never had no spirit left, right? I had no spirit left in my soul at all. I was dead inside. A walking shell, that's all I was.
As can be seen from these comments, addictions can impact the whole person. Therefore, the whole person needs to be considered in the recovery process, including the spiritual dimension of the person. Successful mutual aid programs in addiction treatment, such as Alcoholics Anonymous, are based on a 12-step philosophy, which is dominated by spiritual principles. For both Jeff and Tammy, spirituality and religion were central to their recovery.
For me, spirituality, I believe in God. He is my higher power, and I believe that's who got me through this, through my addiction. I've always believed there was a God, but it wasn't until that I was heavy in my addiction that I reached out to God to help me and prayed, because everything was just, it was like a dream. It was like a nightmare. Nothing was real anymore. And God is a big part of 12-step program. Well, 12-step program is His higher power. It means something different to everybody, but for me it is God. I believe I got a relationship as well with the Lord now. Whereas one time it was a ritual. Kind of like you go to bed, say your prayers, that's it. You don't speak to Him anymore until it's bedtime again. But it's a daily thing. It could happen at any time where I pray to God to help get me through. And I'm not alone. It's very important.
The last drunk that I had in 2005, I was on my way to commit suicide in the car, and I blew the motor and I passed out. And about 6:30 in the morning, there was a light that came in the car that I cannot explain. And it's, I truly believe today that it was the Lord and Savior that grabbed my shirt collars. And I said, Jeff, you're 34-year-old, you got a wife and 2 beautiful children home, it's time for you to straighten up. So I took that as a sign that if I didn't change, I was going to die. And that was my first spiritual awakening. Now, I haven't drank since July the 6th, 2005, but I used the opiates for a few months later. In January of 2006, I ended up in the psych ward for 3 weeks because I was going through withdrawal from the opiates. And it was a cloudy all day, and it was stormy and snowy, and my pastor came in, and he wanted to pray with me. And when he prayed, that same light came in the hospital room. So I'm glad to say that since the first spiritual awakening in 2005, I haven't drank since. And since the spiritual awakening in January 2006, I haven't used Oxycontin or opiates. So that was a spiritual awakening for me. For me, today I got a relationship, not a religion. And I got a relationship with my higher power, which I call God. And it's very important that for me, I had to turn my will and my life over to care of something in order for me to have content and sobriety, because if I hold on to it and I didn't give it to somebody, the fight and the cravings would be there constantly. But if I passed it in someone else's hands, it do help in recovery.
I still work the 12-step program into my daily life. Every day there's pieces of that I use to get through and enjoy life much better. A clergy member, this gentleman told me and made me believe that God will accept me for who I am, and He will let me get through it. I honestly thought that I've sinned that much that there was no going back and I wouldn't be forgiven for all of it.